Could FSU possibly land a package deal of 2 5-star defensive players? Tomorrow night is a huge night for FSU, and it's a night that fans have been anxiously waiting for all week long. Last Friday night, Florida State landed a commitment from 5-star defensive back Charles Lester. And as great as a pickup as it was, we even did a video here about it, it still didn't stop fans from immediately looking forward to this Saturday and waiting a decision from 5-star safety KJ Bolden out of Beaufort, Georgia. Bolden is the top 10 player in the entire country and is a consensus 5-star on every platform. He's of course received offers from essentially every school, but he's narrowed down to a top 5 schools including FSU, Georgia, Ohio State, Auburn, and Alabama. Being he's from the state of Georgia, UGA has long thought to have been the favorite in this recruitment, and it seems like a safe bet considering the way that they've been recruiting lately and the product on the field for the last several years. They even still currently have the crystal ball predictions as of Thursday evening recording this video, though I do expect some movement coming Friday afternoon and evening as this recruitment has really shaken up quite a bit over the last several weeks. Now for starters, KJ has often said that FSU was his dream school growing up, and I know a lot of fans, especially FSU fans, tend to roll their eyes when they hear that kind of statement, and I'll admit, the dream school comment has honestly seemed more like bad luck than anything, especially over the last few years. Now KJ took a multi-day unofficial visit to FSU back in April and then again in late June, where he spent lots of quality time with head coach Mike Norvell and of course new DBs coach Pat Surtain. This visit by all accounts went very well, and this is where the recruitment really started heating up. In his post-visit interview, he referred to the team in terms of us or we, even using the statement, hopefully we go get us a natty, when referring to the level of talent on this 2023 FSU team. Now this is all the energy and words you want to hear from a player of his caliber coming out of a visit. Then he starts following and liking all kinds of FSU stuff on Twitter and communicating more and more with other Tribe 24 recruits. In a recent interview with KJ, he also mentioned that he thought he had a school picked out, but then spoke with another coach and it kind of completely changed his mindset and made him reconsider this decision. With the timing of this reads like maybe he initially had UGA picked, as everybody thought, and then hopefully FSU is the school that kind of came in and made him reconsider. This, of course, led to all kinds of craziness on social media as the Bolden to FSU smoke seemingly grew exponentially with each day, bringing a lot more confidence to the FSU side of things. Now, I also know that landing Charles Lester last week matters and helps FSU's case at least a little bit. Lester silently committed to the staff over a month ago and has actually been recruiting KJ to FSU ever since. When Lester was interviewed after his commitment ceremony, KJ was actually the first player he brought up by name. Now, of course, KJ is ultimately going to make his own decision, but a lot of recruiting is hype and momentum, and elite players want to play with other elite players. I have to admit, getting KJ Bolden and Charles Lester in the FSU secondary together will be huge. Maybe giving off Jalen Ramsey, Derwin James vibes again in Tallahassee. Lester has actually used that comparison publicly when recruiting KJ, so let's hope his efforts, along with the staff's, of course, can pay off tomorrow evening. Then, as recruiting does, this one took another dramatic turn when KJ took an unofficial visit to Auburn for their Big Cat event last weekend. And it definitely at least seems like Auburn gets some momentum out of this visit. A few Auburn guys have even predicted that they would land him. KJ himself said that head coach Hugh Freeze almost got a commitment out of him that day. Now, in my opinion, a month ago Auburn was maybe running 4th or 5th in this recruitment. They had a hat at the table, but there wasn't a ton of chatter about them. So for them to do enough in essentially 2 days to end up beating out teams like UGA or FSU, Ohio State, would be a tall task, but weirder things have happened. It also kind of seems to me that this either was a little bit of a visit high or KJ was overhyping a little bit to build up some suspense heading into his announcement. Noles fans just went through the same situation with Charles Lester in Colorado literally last week. I think Auburn pulled out all the stops for him last weekend, and I think he did enjoy his time there. I just don't know, outside of the initial visit high, if they could really do enough this late in his recruitment to ultimately gain a commitment out of him. But it is Auburn, and we all know how much they can do when it comes to NIL, and Hugh Freeze is a very solid recruiter. Now, fast forward to today, the day before his commitment, you really have 3 schools feeling pretty confident. FSU insiders feel good, Auburn insiders feel good, and UGA insiders still seem to feel good as well, although maybe not as good as they felt way back in the spring. So you're definitely getting some conflicting information, but I do know that one constant that remains is Florida State here. It seems like the general consensus from other insiders is if it's not us, then it's FSU. Now, a couple other interesting things to note is that KJ has used his official visit to Georgia, but he hasn't used his official to Auburn or FSU. So if he does end up deciding to go elsewhere right now, FSU still hopefully has a shot in season to change his mind. If he does pick FSU, then Auburn will still shoot their shot, and FSU will have to try to defend against that. So there's a lot of moving parts here. I also know that some insiders at Noles 247 have said that they think KJ likely sticks with his commitment. Apparently, he's a kid that doesn't love the whole recruiting process and just kind of wants it to be over. So take that for what it's worth. Now, here's where a package deal could be brought into play and where it starts to get really interesting. Jaden Perlott, a five-star linebacker in the 2025 recruiting class, is also KJ's teammate at Buford High School. Perlott is also a current UGA commit and did go with KJ on the Auburn visit last weekend. Florida State has been heavily involved here as well with Perlott, and I kind of have had him on flip watch for a while now. Perlott was in an interview that said that he was still locked in with Georgia, but he'll have to kind of see where KJ goes. He says, where KJ goes, I'll be there. And he also goes on to say that they like playing together now and would love to take that to the next level. Now, two things. This could be overanalyzing, but this sort of sounds like it's not quite UGA. Usually when a kid who's committed to a program wants to play with another elite player, he'll say more of, I'm recruiting him to join me here, where it sounds like Perlott is already considering going elsewhere with KJ. Now, like I said, Florida State has been heavily involved with him as well, so this could point to the Noles. And I also mentioned that he was with KJ on the Auburn visit, so it could still really be any of the three schools here. But the one thing that sort of tilts the scales to FSU, other than everything else I mentioned, is that Monday, the day following this Auburn visit, Perlott tweeted at Mike Norvell the spear emoji and the sunglasses emoji. Now, a few minutes later, this tweet got taken down, but I have a hard time believing that this wasn't relevant to their recruitments. On top of that, shortly after, Mike Norvell sent out a sort of cryptic tweet about potential more fireworks coming in August. So hopefully this is a sign that both KJ and Jaden Perlott will be joining each other in Tallahassee. Now, all this being said, I do think this is a tight battle between three schools. I think FSU was his dream school, and that he was kind of looking for a reason to go there. I think the improvement by Coach Norvell and the addition of Pat Surtain have given him that. I also think Auburn gained a lot of momentum here in the last week or so, and of course, you can never count out the in-state school, the back-to-back national champs in Georgia. However, when you lay it all out like that, it's hard to not feel confident in FSU at this point. The guys at Noles 247 have done a great job, and when it's this close to the decision, they're usually right on the money, and they still all seem to feel pretty confident in FSU. So I have no reason not to believe them. So I would bet that KJ is a Nole come this weekend, and hopefully that does spur his friend and teammate Jaden Perlott to join him at FSU. We all know how badly FSU needs safeties and definitely linebackers, and we would love to pick up these two. Landing KJ would be huge. There's no doubt about it. And it may be one of the biggest shockers of the whole cycle, as he's been long thought to be headed to Georgia. As J.D. Pickell from On 3 said, it would certainly be an I'm him moment for Mike Norvell. It would certainly kill any of the Mike can't recruit slander as FSU cruises this way to a top 10 recruiting class. A class that could still go even higher. So lots to be excited about, lots to keep an eye on moving forward as the season is quickly approaching. And what a time to be an FSU fan as we're sitting here essentially discussing a 2-for-1 deal for 5-star players. But let me know what you guys think. Is KJ going to fulfill his dream and become a Seminole? Let me know down in the comments, and let's talk Noles.